everything wrong with Stoicism. And you'd think, William, you teach us Stoicism every single day. You wrote a book on Stoicism. You published it last year. You always go on about the teachings of Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus. I've never heard you say anything bad about Stoicism. And that's true. I never did say anything bad about Stoicism. And that was a big fault on my behalf. And the story of me criticizing Stoicism began, because for those who don't know, I've been studying and teaching Stoicism for over a decade now. I've been learning about it. I've wrote a book on Stoicism. I love it. It's my life. The Everyday Stoic. But the criticism began maybe 2 years ago. I was working on this course. I wasn't working on it. I actually made this course. And I was going to put it out into the world. I filmed like 60 chapters to this lesson. It was 3 hours, I think, different exercises, practices, everything that you all could follow along with. And I professionally produced it, had a set, had a really great editor, and we made it together, and we had this thing. And I never published it for 2 years. And that's where the problems began, because I was learning things from modern day psychology and modern day philosophy, modern day teachers, modern day science, all these kind of things. I was learning things that were in direct contrast and conflict with what I was trying to teach. And I just didn't agree with what the Stoics were saying. So I never released that to the world. Sorry, guys. But there's a silver lining. I will be making something that is better somewhere along the line. But this led me on a journey of criticizing Stoicism, finding out what's wrong with Stoicism. So I'm not just putting out quotes, putting out teachings of Stoicism saying, this is correct, this is right. These guys lived thousands of years ago. They can't have got everything correct, and they got a few things wrong. So number one is the criticisms of Stoicism that you hear from everyday people is that Stoics are cold, callous, isolated, unloving, uncaring, not in touch with their emotions. If you're watching this, then I'm 99% sure, especially if you subscribe to this channel, you know that this is just not true about Stoicism. It's not a reality of Stoicism, so we can discard this. The next criticism, which isn't mine, is the dichotomy of control. And Stoic teachers, very respected Stoic teachers and authors, have criticized the dichotomy of control for saying, the Stoics say there are things within your power and things not within your power. And this is the only definition they have. They say within your power is your opinion, motivation, desire, aversion, in a word, whatever is of your own doing. Not within your power is everything else. Your health, wealth, reputation, office, people's opinions, all these kind of things. That's not within your power. And then modern day philosophers come along and say there should be the trichotomy of control. That's the things that you have some influence over. Now, while there is truth to this, Stoicism as a practical philosophy that is supposed to help you, I think drawing this distinction in your mind, because Epictetus says the first thing you should do is create this distinction and understand what is within your power and what is not within your power. It helps create a mindset of not being a victim. It helps create this mindset of giving you full control and full autonomy over the things you do control. So I like the dichotomy of control as a lifestyle and mindset thing. It helps me to understand and focus solely on what I can control. And I understand this trichotomy of control, and if you've studied Stoicism for many years and practiced it, it's easy to adapt into your life. But when you're just getting started and you need that guidance, just cutting it into two is very helpful. It's a very useful tool. It's one of the most useful tools you can have in your life. I mean, Epictetus said it's the first thing you should do. So that's that. That's everyone's criticisms. My criticisms is, number one, there is a lot of negativity and hate towards anger. He who angers you controls you. The anger is irrational. Anger equates to non-human. It is not human to get angry. And I know there's translations and there's more depth to the teachings, but even reading the Stoics a lot, you get the impression that anger is bad. Seneca wrote on anger. Marcus Aurelius talks a lot about his own anger and his struggles with anger. And it seems like what they were trying to do is to eradicate anger or to master anger. And that is something I've been really struggling with, is this concept of anger. And I'm led to the conclusion that anger is natural. It is an emotion we have. It's a very useful tool. And we shouldn't eradicate it. We shouldn't master it. We shouldn't ignore it. We shouldn't dive headfirst into anger. We should use it correctly. We should mature with anger. We should learn how to use anger in a mature way, just like any emotion. When we treat it as a child, then it's not very useful. Anger is just fits of rage and screaming and that kind of thing. But that's the same as all emotions when they're used in a childish manner. So we mature, we learn how to use anger correctly, because it indicates to us when our boundaries have been overstepped, in a way, when someone is rude to us, and it helps us, it gives us the anger. We say, oh, something's not quite right here. We use our rational brain. What's not right? We address it. The anger goes away. But if you don't address the anger properly, it's going to be internalized or directed somewhere else. It doesn't just disappear. It doesn't say like, something's wrong, and then you ignore it and something's not wrong. That thing is still wrong until you address it and fix it in a mature way. So that's actually my biggest criticism of Stoicism, is this villainizing of this emotion, this useful tool. I just think most people who go down the path of Stoicism will just cut out anger. I never get angry. I've made many videos on this. I don't get angry. And it's not a useful path to go down. Second criticism, it's not been well updated to our modern life. And I know when teachings come from truth, they come from human truths, they're still very understandable and adaptable to this modern climate, to our modern lives, but things are just so different. We face completely different problems. I'm not saying our life's easier or harder than these people that lived thousands of years ago, but it's so different. And I think that needs that adaptation. And I'm working really hard on that recently. I'm trying to create this adaptation, and so you can fit it better into your life. It's more understandable. The third thing is a lot of the teachings I know where this comes from. It's targeted towards a stronger person. And it's kind of like they push the teachings towards a Stoic sage, or the idea of a Stoic sage, this perfect sage, this perfect Stoic. And when you hear the teachings, it's obvious. Marcus Aurelius was writing to himself. His understanding of Stoicism was phenomenal. His character was very strong. He had a very difficult life. He adapted these things into his life since he was a child. He was raised by the greatest tutors, the greatest warriors. So he's talking to himself. He's not an average person. So as an average person looking in, it's hard to connect with that. And then Epictetus, the same, he was a slave turned philosopher, and the way he's talking to people, and he did use humor and kind of like shock tactics, in his teachings. He's talking about, if you're to be beheaded, why complain? You're going to be beheaded anyway. Why complain and make it worse for yourself? And I think sometimes it seems like it's directed towards a person that understands Stoic philosophy fully, understands the depth, understands the challenges and the practical side of the philosophy. It seems like it's geared towards someone that's been practicing it very long. And certain things that I'm understanding now, I didn't understand for many years studying Stoicism and practicing Stoicism, shall I say. It's more important to practice Stoicism than study it, unless it's your hobby. But it talks about the Spartan Lycurgus, and someone stabs him in his eye. He loses his eye, and he's talking about how Lycurgus didn't punish this man, didn't do any of that. He actually helped this boy that stabbed him in his eye become a better man, become a better person, and helped reform him, and which is very admirable. But I think as an average person, we're talking about a Spartan warrior here. As an average person, you can use these tactics if you're not fully developed in your character, you can use these tactics as as a way of avoidance, as conflict avoidance or challenge avoidance. So someone hurts you, maybe not stabs you in the eye, I hope not. Someone hurts you, and you go, well, Lycurgus, the great Spartan, he was nice to this person. Yeah, but there's so much more depth to it. That's just a story. And I think when you do this, you can let people walk all over you, and that becomes a problem. So like, these stories do have to be taken with a pinch of salt. They need much better understanding. Now, ideally, that's phenomenal. That is the greatest outcome. Someone stabs you in the eye and you make them into a better person. You help them to stop committing these crimes. You help them become a good member of society. That is very ideal. And you didn't add to your hurt. You've already been stabbed. You've got the physical pain. You don't need to keep adding to it. It's really hard to take on some of this advice when we're not these sort of people. And I'm not saying there's nothing special about you and I. Everyone's freaking very special. Everyone's really special, and we need to remember that. We've kind of forgot that because society is very busy, and we seem to think we're not special. Everyone's special. The next thing is the structure, or the lack of structure, is very hard to grasp. So I've developed my understanding and structure from just passages and passages in the Stoics, and some of the things go against each other. They contradict each other in a way. Marcus Aurelius will say, this is the most important thing. Epictetus will say, this is the most important thing. Then later on in the book, they say, this is the first thing you must do. And it's hard to understand. But if you keep reading them enough, you understand broadly of what it means to be a Stoic. And that's kind of how you live your life. I ideally, especially when I first began, would like a very strict structure, or some form of structure / guidance that can help you to become and live like a Stoic. And that's something I'm working on. I want to create a very strong structure. So you can say, this is the first thing I do, second thing I do. This is the goals I'm working towards. This is the things I'm trying to eradicate. All this kind of thing. So you always have guidance, because sometimes you can get lost. And sometimes it's a good thing. I love it. But you can get lost in an idea or a passage or a quote of the Stoics, and maybe you're misunderstanding it wrong. Maybe you're using it as a form of avoidance. But there needs to be, I think, a structure to work through that will help you to attain this sage state, which I don't think is possible. It's an ideal that the Stoics had. Which brings me to the next criticism, is a lot of it is geared towards ideals. Stoicism is a lot of it based on the idea of the Stoic sage, who's this perfect Stoic. And sometimes as an average person reading it, it's hard to connect with these ideals that they're saying, because you're like, well, life's not like that. I do this. The guy stabs me in the eye. I tried to reform him, tried to help him, but he just keeps doing bad. He keeps doing bad. I keep getting taken for a fool. So there's that. And then the last but not least is Stoicism is not relatable to all people. And this is the same thing I go with truth, honesty. Real human truths are relatable. So when you really get into the depth of the meditations, there are things in there that will relate with anyone. But, if you've noticed, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Zeno, Chrysippus, Cleanthes, these people are all men. They're all men, and all ancient men. So as a modern man or a modern woman, or a boy or a girl, it's hard to connect with these things. Now, you can connect with some of the teachings, but to kind of imagine yourself in these situations is very difficult. How can I connect with an emperor? So that's kind of what the Everyday Stoic is all about, is trying to make it more relatable, understandable, and people love it. That's one thing that's funny, actually, about my book, as people said, and I never meant this really, is people said that's what it was. It was like they didn't get Stoicism, they couldn't understand it. They were interested in it, they heard these great quotes, and they heard the great benefits of Stoicism, but they couldn't get into it. And then they read my book and it's like, oh, I get it now. So that's my goal here. But I think what we need to do is involve people better in Stoicism. I see a lot of, I've made posts about women in Stoicism, and I get a lot of criticism from men. Not all men, of course, but I get a lot of criticism saying, oh, women can't be Stoic, women can't do this. We need to be including people, I can't remember who it was. I'm not going to try guess, because I can't remember off the top of my head, but they were saying, if we can, it is Stoicism for women. So of course, if we can, just a selfish reason, if we can get women into Stoicism as men, we can have a better environment for ourselves. If we believe that Stoicism is the answer for a good society, then if we're involving women in Stoicism, it helps a better society. But I think just in general, we want to include people. We want people to feel included. We want people to feel welcome in this philosophy. Because ultimately, Stoicism isn't about gatekeeping, It's about society, it's about community, it's about justice, it's about helping one another, it's about being a brother or sister to everyone, or even seeing everyone as a extension of yourself, as Marcus Aurelius describes in his Meditations. It's like everyone is a part, we're all part of this whole, and we should care and love for each other in that sense. And yeah, it doesn't mean you have to get along and like everyone. Some people are very horrible, but if you love them the way you love yourself, you want to do what is right for them. Some people need a punishment, some people need a lesson, some people need such and such whatever to make the world a better place. But I think teaching Stoicism for all and not gatekeeping it, not holding people back, and welcoming people and allowing people, a criticism, people come to me and they say these false understandings of Stoicism, these alpha males where they say Stoicism is about this, it's about this. I don't push them away, because I was there when I was 17, 18, whatever it was. I was there thinking Stoicism is about being this cold alpha that doesn't care about anyone or anything, just laser focused. But that led me to here. So like, if someone pushed me away, and they would never do this, because they're great people. It's surprisingly, if you speak to people that actually practice Stoicism, they're great people. But if someone like Donald or Massimo, in fact, or William B. Irvine, if I went to them and said, I'm learning Stoicism, this is what it's all about, and they laughed in my face and said, you're not Stoic, you don't get it, I would have been crushed and probably followed nihilism or cynicism or something. But no one turned me away, no one pushed me out, and I don't want to do that to people, even if they're doing harm. We need to see that their moral blindness is an injustice to them, and they need help. So we need to include everyone, basically. That's everything wrong with Stoicism. Do you think there is anything else wrong with Stoicism? Do you agree with everything I said? I'm open to discussion, but just to end this, I want to say something is, all my focus is going on this new, not an adaptation of Stoicism. I'm not trying to say I'm making new Stoicism 2.0. I'm creating a way in which everyone can understand it and follow it, and they're not going down the wrong paths. They're getting a direct line to understanding and growth through Stoic philosophy. I'm working on it. I'm trying really hard, and it will be there. It will be there with adaptations from modern psychology, modern sciences, modern understanding of human behavior, because our depth of psychological understanding and understanding of addiction, all these kind of things, they play a huge role in our life. But using ancient methods, we can kind of ignore all of that. So I'm mixing it and making a coherent path for all of you. So stick around, it's going to be there. It's going to be there. But have a wonderful day, and thank you for listening, or watching and listening, or just listening. Whatever you're doing, just thank you, and have a wonderful day.